West Berlin, summer of 1965. The American checkpoint at Friedrichstrasse hummed with the mechanical paranoia of the Cold War. Fluorescent lights cast surgical brightness over inspection tables where border guards dissected luggage with gloved precision. The air smelled of diesel exhaust, stale coffee, and the particular anxiety that clung to everyone crossing between worlds. A woman approached the barrier. Her purse landed on the stainless steel table with the soft thud of leather meeting metal. The guard's hands moved through the contents with practiced efficiency. Compact mirror, cigarette case, folded Deutschmarks, and then something that made him pause. A lipstick tube, gold casing. The right weight. Almost. He twisted the base. No cosmetic spiral emerged. Instead, his fingers detected the unmistakable density of machined steel, the cold promise of something that had nothing to do with beauty. Inside that gilded cylinder was a 4.5mm single-shot pistol, the first confirmed example of what Western intelligence would come to call the kiss of death. In that moment, an entire category of threat crystallized. The Soviets had weaponized femininity itself. The tube was seized. The woman vanished into interrogation. But the weapon remained, a technological confession that would eventually find its way to the vaults of the International Spy Museum in Washington, where it sits today behind glass, inert, elegant, and profoundly sinister. This is the story of how Soviet engineers transformed courtship into murder, and why this tiny instrument of death reveals more about Cold War desperation than 1,000 intercepted cables ever could. By 1965, the Berlin Wall had stood for 4 years, transforming the city into a fortress of concrete and paranoia. Border security had evolved into a science. X-ray machines proliferated at checkpoints. Hollowed books were discovered. False bottom suitcases became clichés. The KGB faced a brutal calculus: how to arm operatives in enemy territory when every conventional concealment method had been compromised. The answer emerged from the Technical Operations Directorate, the Soviet Union's clandestine workshop where engineers applied communist pragmatism to the art of killing. Their philosophy was elegant in its ruthlessness: transform the mundane into the lethal. If border guards expected weapons to look like weapons, then weapons must cease to look like weapons. Cigarette packs became single-shot guns, umbrellas delivered ricin-tipped pellets, and lipstick tubes, those universal symbols of feminine ritual, became instruments of close-quarters assassination. But the lipstick pistol represented something more calculated than mere disguise. It exploited a specific vulnerability in Western security architecture: the gendered blindness of male border guards. A woman's cosmetic bag was intimate territory, psychologically coded as innocent. The ritual of makeup, the compacts and powders and tubes, carried a cultural weight that discouraged thorough examination. Soviet planners understood that sexism could be weaponized as effectively as uranium. Female operatives carrying the kiss of death moved through checkpoints with an advantage their male counterparts could never possess: the assumption of harmlessness. They were counted, documented, and waved through, their purses searched with a perfunctory embarrassment that left the lipstick tube untested, untwisted, undiscovered. Until West Berlin, 1965, when one guard's instinct shattered the illusion. The kiss of death measured approximately 3 inches in length and weighed just over 2 ounces, indistinguishable from a standard cosmetic tube until the moment it revealed its purpose. Soviet engineers had condensed the fundamental principles of firearms into a cylinder barely wider than a human thumb. The mechanism was a masterpiece of brutal simplicity. The firing system operated on a twist activation principle. Rotating the base of the tube compressed a spring-loaded hammer concealed within the body. When sufficient torque was applied, the hammer released, striking the primer of the 4.5mm cartridge embedded in the barrel tip. The report would have been sharp but muffled, a sound easily lost in the ambient noise of a crowded street or a busy cafe. Alternative accounts suggest a contact trigger design, where pressing the barrel directly into the victim's body activated the firing mechanism, ensuring point-blank delivery and leaving no room for hesitation or miss. The 4.5mm caliber represented a calculated compromise between concealability and lethality. Larger rounds would have required a wider barrel, destroying the disguise. Smaller rounds risked insufficient stopping power. The 4.5mm Zaris struck a lethal equilibrium, too small for distance shooting but devastating at the ranges this weapon was designed for. Across a table, in an embrace, during the intimate proximity of a kiss. The projectile velocity would have been subsonic given the abbreviated barrel length, but at 6 inches, velocity becomes irrelevant. Tissue disruption, hemorrhage, and shock deliver the outcome. Yet the engineering revealed a fatal truth embedded in the design philosophy. This was a single-shot weapon with no extraction mechanism, no reload capability, no provision for follow-up. The operative who deployed the kiss of death possessed exactly one opportunity. Miss, and the element of surprise evaporated. Fire successfully, and escape became paramount because the weapon itself became evidence. This was not a tool for prolonged operations. This was an instrument for a singular, irrevocable act, an assassination disguised as affection, a murder delivered in the language of intimacy. The lipstick pistol was, in essence, a suicide mission weapon for operatives willing to trade their cover for a corpse. The United States was not innocent of concealment weapons, but its approach revealed a fundamentally different operational philosophy. During World War II, the Office of Strategic Services, the CIA's predecessor, developed the Stinger, a single-shot pistol disguised as a cigarette. Operatives behind enemy lines carried them as last-resort escape tools, weapons to be used when capture seemed imminent and death was preferable to interrogation. The contrast was instructive. American concealment weapons were defensive, tools of survival and evasion. Soviet concealment weapons were offensive, tools of targeted elimination. The CIA's Technical Services Division certainly experimented with disguised firearms throughout the Cold War, but institutional doctrine favored electronic surveillance, cryptography, and signals intelligence over close-quarters assassination. The United States preferred to listen rather than kill, to photograph rather than poison. The gender dimension further distinguished the arsenals. Western intelligence agencies, constrained by institutional sexism, rarely equipped female operatives with lethal hardware. Women in the CIA served as analysts, couriers, and support staff, roles deemed appropriate for their supposed capabilities. The KGB, operating under a different calculus of expendability, recognized that female operatives could access spaces and exploit assumptions that male agents could not. The lipstick pistol was not empowerment, it was exploitation. Soviet planners weaponized their female agents as thoroughly as they weaponized the cosmetics those agents carried. By the late 1960s, technological evolution began rendering such devices obsolete. Improved X-ray systems could distinguish metal density variations. Chemical sniffers detected gunpowder residue. The discovery of the lipstick pistol in Berlin accelerated countermeasure development. Border guards trained to examine cosmetics with renewed suspicion. The window of operational viability, always narrow, slammed shut. The kiss of death became a museum piece, effective only in the brief interval before its existence became known. The lipstick pistol now resides behind glass at the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C., a replica surrounded by explanatory text that struggles to capture the psychological dimensions of its purpose. Visitors photograph it, read the placard, and move on to the next display. But the weapon's true significance extends beyond its mechanical ingenuity. Its existence confirmed that by the mid-1960s, the KGB had prioritized close proximity assassination as a primary operational method. This was not a weapon for gathering intelligence or facilitating communication. This was a tool designed exclusively for murder. Murder that required physical intimacy, that demanded the operative be close enough to smell the target's cologne, to feel the warmth of breath, to make eye contact in the final second before twisting the base and delivering the fatal round. The lipstick pistol spoke to a particular kind of operational brutality, one that required not just willingness to kill, but willingness to kill intimately. The weapon's single-shot limitation also revealed the disposable nature of the operatives who carried it. Soviet handlers did not expect these agents to survive their missions. The kiss of death was issued to those deemed expendable, individuals whose value lay in one successful elimination rather than sustained intelligence gathering. This was Cold War calculus reduced to its coldest equation: one agent, one target, one bullet. Yet the deepest mystery remains unsolved. No confirmed operational use of the lipstick pistol has ever been documented in declassified files. The weapon discovered in West Berlin in 1965 may have been intercepted before it could fulfill its purpose, or its use may remain buried in archives that have not yet seen daylight. Somewhere in the shadow history of the Cold War, there may be deaths attributed to natural causes, heart attacks, or unexplained collapses that were, in fact, the kiss of death delivering its promised embrace. Or perhaps the weapon's reputation exceeded its deployment, a psychological operation as much as a physical one, designed to induce paranoia, to make every interaction suspect, every intimacy dangerous. The lipstick tube behind the museum glass is silent on these questions. It reveals only what it is: 3 inches of machined intention, a tool crafted for the moment when beauty and death converge, when a gesture of affection transforms into an act of annihilation. The kiss of death endures not because of its body count, but because it crystallizes the Cold War's essential truth that in the struggle between superpowers, nothing was innocent, nothing was merely what it appeared to be, and even a kiss could kill.